Sunday Times, and whilst Conor Burns might be out of a job, perhaps not all is lost, Nick.
Well, this is, Conor Burns, minister sacked for misconduct claims, is on track for a knighthood from Boris Johnson. So it's a strange one. I mean, we just touched on it now, no pun intended, because he's, of course, accused of touching a man's thigh at the convent. It's not clear if it was Toby's, we don't know, but there was a lot of drinking that went on, from what I hear.
The pity.
I mean, in historical Tory sleaze standards, this is quite small, isn't it? But post-Me Too, and in the strange moment we're in now, it seems like quite a big deal, because post-Boris, post-Pincher, and obviously Truss has had to deal with it as quickly as possible. But this has not gone down well with the party, because there are people saying there hasn't been due process. He was a well-liked person. He was friends with Margaret Thatcher. He's a big Boris guy. So this has not gone down very well. And we're even at the bizarre point where Mel B was tweeting about it. I don't know if we... Oh, we've got the tweet. Yeah, so Mel B... Conor Burns put a sort of 3-tweet thread about why he was innocent. And then Mel B wrote, "Really? You're shocked about the complaint? Let me remind you of what you said to me, or said me in lift." She missed out some words there, unfortunately. But he said something to Mel B in a lift, allegedly. And then he apparently said he's not aware of having met Mel B, although the key part might be not aware of it. If you were blind drunk, and you might not know which one she was, the Spice Girls, I suppose. But, yeah, so the Mel B gate is now...
Well, whatever he said, it must have been brief. Unless he was in a skyscraper.
Well, unless the lift was broken and it was like a long conversation.
It's not a very big building. The friends of Conor Burns are rallying round and trying to mount some kind of defence, and they claim that he's being singled out as a sacrificial lamb by Liz Truss to prove that she won't tolerate any dissent, because apparently he was a little bit critical of her on various panels at fringe events leading up to this episode in the bar, and normally that kind of thing wouldn't kind of be a sacking offence, but in his case, his real sin was to be disloyal, so he's been made an example of. That's what his friends are claiming.
Do you think she should have put a Sunakite into the cabinet, somebody like Michael Gove? Keep your enemies closer and all that.
According to the Sunday Times, in a story tomorrow, she offered Michael Gove a job without actually specifying what it was on the eve of conference. Said it would be playing an important diplomatic role with a major ally. Could have been the ambassadorship to Israel, which is apparently becoming available soon. But in spite of, politely declining it and not giving any hint that he would unleash this drone attack on her mini budget in last Sunday's morning politics shows. So they claim that they did offer him a job.
But are we led to believe that that would be a role for which he'd have to lose his seat and could he have remained an MP? Or was it a case of getting rid of him?
Yeah, maybe he suspected that, and maybe he hasn't yet abandoned his own ambitions to become leader one day.
I've heard it rumoured that Truss is quoted to have said she hates Michael Gove. Well, that's what... Maybe she didn't say it, but people say she hates Gove, whereas Gove's been a bit smart about it. He says publicly, "Oh, I like Liz," while simultaneously undermining all of her policies.
Tremendous respect for her.
Yeah, tremendous. Meanwhile, she shouldn't have done the tax rate, and she should raise benefits in line with inflation, and I'm going to undermine her at every turn.
I mean, there was one quite nice detail buried in the story about Conor Burns, which is that in Boris Johnson's resignation honours list, he's also nominated various sitting Conservative MPs for peerages, Nadine Dorries, Nigel Adams amongst them. And that will cause problems, because that could, if they take up those seats in the House of Lords, that will trigger by-elections. And the last thing Liz Truss wants is, a cluster of by-elections when she's 33 points behind in the polls.
It's like she can't get rid of Boris's legacy, isn't it? Because then the stories are still, Boris giving knighthoods to his mates. In a way, why do we care? He's not even the Prime Minister, but somehow it's still dogging her.
Briefly, is the issue that the supporters of Sunak are not quite willing to bury the hatchet, that there's still a dream that they could unseat Truss pre the next election? Because I think once the Tories accept that it's Truss until January 2025, I think the point at which that happens, I think they will unite. But it's the fact that this feels like unfinished business.
Well, I'll tell you a secret. It may not be that big a secret, but 99% of Conservative MPs believe that they can one day lead the party and walk into Downing Street. Even if they've been defeated in a leadership election, they don't give up on that dream. Even Boris, who's been kicked out of Downing Street as PM, hasn't given up on that dream. So I don't think for a second Rishi Sunak will have given up on that ambition.
I'm not even in the party, and I haven't given up on it myself.
Me neither.
Dixon for Prime Minister. There you go. A coalition of hell between himself and Toby.